Madame the President, Monsieur le Premier Ministre, Mesdames et Messieurs, indeed, I'm here to send a message to the United Nations in New York. What I'm going to say is just to remind them that what happened in Camp Liberty, it was predictable. We did warn against it. But unfortunately, the United Nations was mobilized to hide the truth. Madam the President, let me tell you that the press release made by UNAMI in Kobler, as early as back in October 2011, there was a message, a code cable we sent to New York to say that the MEK has such a powerful propaganda machinery. And the United Nations has to prepare itself to counter this propaganda. And straight away, SRSG, the Special Representative of the Secretary General, instructed to put down a number of scenarios and draft a press release for each scenario possible. You have read the statement made after the assassination of the Ashrafis in Camp Liberty. Reference is made to explosions in the camp. What does that mean? Explosions in the camp? It means that there is a probability that the Ashrafis themselves caused these explosions. This is absolutely unacceptable. This is rather criminal. In this, I would like to go back to Camp Liberty. I'll take you on a visit to Camp Liberty. Because so far we've been talking about reports of the United Nations about the conditions of living in Camp Liberty. But we had never spoken about the security assessment of Camp Liberty. Security assessment was made differently, separately from the conditions of living in Camp Liberty. I was the first to lead the mission to Camp Liberty with the security personnel of the UNAMI. And the first thing we pointed at is that the T-walls, for those who are not familiar with these T-walls, they are very solid, concrete walls in the shape of a T, but put upside down so the base is on it. This is what a T-wall. The T-walls were designed the way they were put around the camp to restrict the movement of the residents. On top of the T-walls, you have these cameras, barbed wire and cameras on top of and listening devices. I'm not a security expert, but my team was there, security experts were there. They said this is designed in order to control, the crowd control. Crowd control, it means that there are plans to be executed in the future, but it's a question of when. I don't want to go further on this, I will come back to it in a minute. But let me just remind you what Kobler said to the Ashrafis when he said that I signed on your behalf to save life. And we did warn him that what he's doing is not saving life. In fact, around the table with UNAMI leadership, we were discussing how to cut the head of the body. Relocation, which is not a relocation, it's forcible eviction. The real aim is to disband the Ashrafis. There is no way to disband them, so you have to take the leadership away from the population of Camp Liberty. In that sense, and this is the language we used, that the rest of the population will go, each and every one, their way. They will disappear in the nature. But the leadership will be arrested. And from this platform, I warn again that there will be further attacks. There will be further attacks and there will be arrests. I'm certain about that. But why is the United Nations keeping quiet on this? These are plans, we know them. We put them. So why is the United Nations keeping quiet? In fact, a lot of people ask questions why Kobler is more enthusiastic about closing down Camp Ashraf and moving people to Camp Liberty more than anybody else, more than the Iraqis themselves. Why? And let me tell you, this is a man who is in charge of a mission. The mission is to establish some love relationship between UNAMI and the Prime Minister al-Maliki. This is clear, and so far so good for the Prime Minister al-Maliki, because he actually held UNAMI as a hostage. In another forum I put it, UNAMI has been mortgaged. And Kobler is paying this mortgage. This is absolutely the reality. And the United Nations in New York is approving this. All they care about is to be seen that they have, the war took place, the United Nations cleaned the place, had setting up a government, democratically, a government that respects human rights. And now, here is the United Nations helping this government. Let me remind you that Ashrafis, the 36 who were detained, were actually taken to a detention center, a secret prison, run by the 56th Brigade. It's a notorious brigade that belongs to the Prime Minister directly. It doesn't belong to any corps of the army. It belongs to the Prime Minister, 56th Brigade. This place, this detention or secret prison is called Sharaf, not Ashraf, Sharaf. Sharaf prison. Again, here is so ironic that such a secret prison to be called Sharaf, dignity. The 36 were held there, just a few meters away from the villa of the SRSG. And yet, the SRSG, today he goes to Camp Liberty, he tells them, listen, I live in a place exactly like yours. This man is not stopping misleading the international community. He tells them, I live in a place like yours with seawalls. And let me tell you exactly what this place is like. The UN compound in the green zone. The green zone itself is a huge security arrangement put in place, but the residents of the UN, you have first the roofings, very important, because the missiles that come from above, usually they penetrate the roof and explode and cause damage. The roofing in the UNAMI compound is impossible to penetrate. You have 1 meter sandbags on the roofs. Then you have steel covering. Then a 1 meter emptiness. Then another layer of sandbags, which makes it impossible for any missile to come penetrate and reach the walls of the containers we lived in. There is 1 meter wide sandbags wall protecting the container. Again, an RPG cannot penetrate the walls of the... And when I hear that the SRG is comparing his residence to Camp Liberty, Camp Liberty are containers with soft skin. A strong soldier could hit it with one hand and just break it. But the worst is the high density of the population in half kilometer square. The high density, it makes it so vulnerable to the extent if you throw a stone from outside the wall, you will be bound to touch somebody. It's so crowded, so dense. So these are not secret to the United Nations. These have been reported to in New York. And yet, we are telling the Ashrafis that we take you to a place in order to save your life. If this is saving life, it defeats me, and also it makes it rather difficult to see the American taxpayer, the French taxpayer, the German taxpayer contributing to establishing such a system to persecute the Ashrafis and commit such atrocities in Ashraf and Camp Liberty. I want to say that as long as the people in charge of Ashraf are misleading the international community, and the international community is taking seriously what they're saying, there will be again serious crimes taking place in Camp Liberty, and it's time to stop it. How to stop it? To me, it's very obvious. While the present format of UNAMI is in place, there will be massacres, and there will be covering up. The human rights reports, and I said it before the Congress, that it's been doctored. We prepare reports with the intention not to upset al-Maliki. These reports, before they are made public, they are revised in Geneva and in New York, and they put their last word. Anything that is likely to upset al-Maliki will be deleted. This is how we functioned in UNAMI. I'll add another point about the media and the counterattacking the MEK propaganda. The Office of the Public Information, the Office Public Information of UNAMI made it its task to, on a daily basis, collect all the information published, whether in Iraq or outside Iraq, that reports negative things about Ashrafis. We put them in a report and present them to all United Nations quarters to see how the press reports about the Ashrafis. And this is done intentionally to harm the Ashrafis. I have lots of very important issues to bring to the attention, not of this public, but to New York. I would like to just mention very briefly, if Mr. the President will allow me, a little comparison when we look around for solutions. I would like to give you a little comparison between the similar camp in Iraq called Camp Mahmour. Camp Mahmour is a place where 11,000 members of PKK, the Kurdistan Working Party, they live in Camp Mahmour, and they are armed. It's an armed group that are fighting Turkey. This group walks around in the camp with arms in their hands openly. Nobody bothers them. But when the United Nations wanted to take care of them, within 3 months, the UNHCR registered them and regularized their situation and gave them traveling documents. They gave them the right to move around in Iraq. They gave them the right to undertake income-generating activities. They also have travel documents to go abroad for those who want to study or those who want to go as tourists, whatever. This is in Camp Mahmour. And I personally raised this issue with UNHCR. I said, why this double standard? Here we have in Ashraf a population that has been designed years ago, verified by the Americans and the Iraqis, and now it's a civilian population, disarmed civilian population. Here we have, on the other hand, an armed group carrying arms openly. These ones, they benefit from the protection, and Mahmour is declared as a refugee camp. So when we ask why not, why this double standard, I never got any answer to my question. I said this, and I would like to say I take responsibility about what I'm saying. And the ball is in the camp of New York. They should dispatch immediately a commission of inquiry, not only to look into the circumstances of this massacre, but also to look into how the UNAMI and Kobler are handling this situation. This is an option. The second option, they could take what I'm saying as defamation of the United Nations and take me to court. So keeping quiet is not a solution, is not an answer. There are I am a witness, and I'm saying what I'm saying, taking responsibility, take me to court or dispatch a commission of inquiry. But to keep it quiet is unacceptable. Thank you very much.
It's really extremely difficult to share in a few minutes 3 years and a half experience in Ashraf. So this is why I faced a number of questions that I think it's necessary to clarify to you today. And by clarifying them to you, I'm sending also a message to the people in New York. Hopefully they will learn from the experiences we so far had in Ashraf and Camp Liberty. I would like to just tell you the situation in Camp Liberty in order to reflect on whether it's actually practical and feasible that people will remain in this place. And what are other options, if there are any? As you could see, this is circled in red. This is the Camp Liberty. This is the main entrance to Camp Liberty, where you have 2 BMPs, Russian tanks, stationed here. And also outside the wall, the red is the wall, the T-wall. Outside, there are tanks, again, Russian tanks, T-72s, stationed here. This is Halliburton KBR location that was supposed to be an extension of Camp Liberty, but in the end the Iraqis refrained from handing it over to Camp Liberty. So, and this one is called the White House. The White House is the location where the UNHCR undertakes interviews with the Ashrafis. Further down here, it's the base of the Rapid Intervention Forces, just right here. So when we pass through the White House, we leave on our left the base of the Rapid Intervention Forces. And behind it, there is the Academy for the Police Forces. And the whole area is high security zone. Just to explain that there is no way for even the United Nations to take a needle with it into Camp Liberty without being detected. But the whole compound, as you see it, is extremely vulnerable to attacks, particularly, as you all know, the police forces and the army, the Iraqi army, are not homogeneous. There are complex situations within the police force and within the army. And having this setup, the Ashrafis are planned, or the Prime Minister's office, I would say, has planned, and they use the word, by all means, these people have to be taken out of the country. Now, what is the situation, security situation, if there is no way, there is no exit for these people? And yet, this compound is extremely vulnerable to attacks. Attacks from all quarters. And it's very easy to launch from here a mortar
And when a mortar explodes inside the camp, you could see the location where it's so tied together. When the mortar explodes, people have no shelter. I should remind that in UNAMI compound, there is a number of what we call safe haven. So the minute anything happened, people jump into the safe havens for cover. They take cover immediately. In this kind of setting, there is no way to take cover. The buildings or the containers, they're soft-skinned, so they're not a safe haven. There is nowhere else where to take safe haven. So any attack will cause serious damage. But are we going to say this situation is going to accommodate these people as a temporary location? In French, we say c'est le temporaire qui dure, et ça va durer. It will last, this situation will last, because started before even the relocation to survey how many people we could take out of Iraq. I did survey face-to-face with those decision makers in Baghdad, the embassies. Each embassy in Baghdad, I asked them, with the list in my hands, how many people can you take? And I could give you figures. The United States of America are not prepared to take more than 6 people. 2 of them have already left. So there are 4 left that could be taken, provided they sign at the airport that when they arrive to America they will be arrested. That was the condition last time when we took them to the airport. They handed these documents to them to sign, so they will be arrested on their arrival. And the young man refused to sign, so they returned back to Ashraf. Now, there is a difference between the population that is actually holding nationality of a third country and what we call in the United Nations affiliated people to a third country. Affiliated, it means at a certain time in history they have a right to residency or a expired refugee status and so on and so forth. We have about 900 people of this sort. And I faced the diplomats in Baghdad telling them, are these people eligible to be repatriated or to be resettled? Not a single embassy is willing to take a single person among what we call affiliated. So, if, with some exaggeration, I would say, if I put figures together, there will be no resettlement in third countries more than few nationals. And those few nationals, most of them have already left. So now we are faced with a situation that everybody among the embassies in Baghdad think that they advance some kind of wishful thinking, that there will be a solution, but no one is prepared to contribute effectively to such a solution. When I asked the Swedes, how many can you take to Sweden? None. The Dutch, how many? None. The Germans, we know that we have nearly 400 affiliated to Germany. And even Mr. Kobler admitted they speak German better than he does. But Germany, the embassy, the ambassador himself told me, Germany is not ready to take any except consider 12 cases. 12 cases, not to be taken to Germany, to be considered. And I said, to be considered for what? They're nationals. They said, no, 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 there are some difficulties with the immigration laws, and we have to actually, whatever decision will be taken will be done through the judicial process. France. France is not ready to take a single Ashrafi. That is the French embassy. I called them, sat with them, discussed it at length. They're not prepared to accommodate a single case. Who else? Britain. They claim that we don't have nationals. There are 62 associated or affiliated. Britain is not ready to take any. Now, what is the solution then? The Iraqis are saying we will get them out by all means. And you see the consequences. We have to take them seriously. They will use all means. Meaning what? There will be more killing. And why is that? The Iraqi government will try to force the hands of the international community to accommodate them. The international community is saying, no, we will not. The Iraqis will hit again. They will kill again to force the hands of the international community to do something. And nobody is prepared to do anything. And the country that has the first responsibility vis-à-vis the Ashrafis is the country that granted them the protected person status under the Fourth Geneva Convention, which is the United States. Is the United States prepared to give the example and accommodate these people? No, they are not. So what is the solution? Are we going to keep them in Camp Liberty to be exposed to a real danger? What are the other solutions in Iraq? Solution is Camp Ashraf. In Camp Ashraf, there are safe havens in Camp Ashraf. There are less density of the population in Camp Ashraf. 36 kilometers square is not to be compared with half a kilometer square. So therefore, a return to Ashraf, while a solution is being sought, while we are searching for a solution, for the safety and security of the people, give them a safe haven. Camp Liberty has been proven now. It's not safe haven. It's a killing zone. The safe haven is go back to Ashraf. There are difficulties with this. Al-Maliki will never tolerate this. But he also said, we will close the camp last year in December, but under international pressure, he changed his mind. He extended his... So the pressure actually does give results. And if we put more pressure, the possibility of going back to Ashraf, Ashraf as safe haven, I say, it's a necessity. It's to save life. Camp Liberty is not a safe haven. It exposes the residents to serious danger. Here is the proof. And therefore, we need to send this message to the international community, to the United Nations, and to the United States. That while the international community is looking for a lasting solution, these people should be taken back to safe haven. I thank you very much.